Peppa Pig is a show full of unexpected mysteries, and in today's video, we're going to talk about some of the most interesting ones you need to know. We all know there are talking vegetables in Peppa Pig, and their very existence is already a huge mystery. But then comes Super Potato, basically the Superman of Peppa Pig's universe. So where does Super Potato's powers come from? That's where things get really interesting. Every time Super Potato shows up, he's seen flying down from the sky. Unlike other talking vegetables like Mrs. Carrot, who uses a thick rope to fake flying, something even the kids in the audience catch, Super Potato seems to actually fly. On top of that, he shows insane strength, like when he rescues Mr. Potato from his stuck car. So, the real mystery is, where did this talking potato get his powers? Was he born with them, or did he gain them later? One popular Peppa Pig theory suggests that the talking vegetables were created through some kind of scientific experiment. But if that's true, then why didn't the other vegetables get superpowers too? We can't say for sure whether it's real or not, but this still remains one of the biggest mysteries in Peppa Pig. Aunt Dottie is probably the most mysterious character in Peppa Pig. So, where exactly does Aunt Dottie live? Peppa and George have an aunt named Dottie, but we're never told if she's Daddy Pig's sister or Mummy Pig's. What we do know is that she doesn't know Peppa and George very well, at least not from what they remember. She lives very far from England, so far in fact that when she sends them a gift, a shiny wheeled horse, she has to include a letter explaining where she's from. The letter clearly shows she's in a distant country. We still don't know exactly where Aunt Dottie lives, but we can rule out a few places. First, she's not in England, since that's where Peppa and George already live. She's also not in France, which is right next door, because when Peppa's family visits France, they meet Delphine and her family, not Aunt Dottie. Same goes for the USA. When Peppa's family travels across America and visits Hollywood to get an award and meet Super Potato, there's still no sign of Aunt Dottie. Some fans believe she might live in Russia, a country even bigger than the USA. This theory comes from an episode where Madame Gazelle plays a game about countries, and George wears a Russian outfit that might have been a gift from Aunt Dottie for International Day. It's a good guess, but so far, the show's creators haven't confirmed anything. Going back to the potatoes in Peppa Pig, there's another mystery around them. Are Super Potato and Mr. Potato brothers? The two characters look almost exactly the same. In fact, many fans believed they were the same person until the episode where Super Potato saves Mr. Potato. So, could these two potatoes actually be related? In the show, we've seen that characters who look very similar, like Daddy Pig and Uncle Pig, are brothers, with small beard differences to tell them apart. But in the case of these two glowing stars, even their mustaches are identical. The only difference is their outfits. So that leads to a very reasonable possibility. Could Super Potato and Mr. Potato be twin brothers? Another popular mystery in Peppa Pig involves George, and some of you might have already guessed it. The question is George adopted? We know the main character's full name is Peppa Pig, and many characters in the show refer to her that way. But when it comes to her brother, we almost never hear anyone call him George Pig. The parents, too, are always referred to by their last name, Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig. So does George not share the pig surname? And if not, then what is his last name? The show never directly mentions it, but in the episode Edmund Elephant's Birthday, Peppa's family receives an invitation addressed to George, calling him George Pig. That seems to settle it. Or does it? If you think about it, Edmund's family might have just assumed that George's last name is Pig and wrote it on the invitation. This idea makes sense, especially since no one in George's family is ever heard calling him by the last name Pig. If we take a closer look at the Peppa Pig show, we'll notice a fun pattern in the characters' names. Almost all the kids have names where the first letter of their first name matches the first letter of their last name, which also tells us what kind of animal they are. Take Edmund Elephant, for example. His last name is Elephant, and both his first and last names start with the letter E. The same goes for his sister, Emily Elephant. There are other characters that follow this pattern too. For example, Peppa Pig has both her first and last name starting with the letter P. Then, we have the twin sisters Peggy and Pandora Panda, who also start with the letter P. And of course, there's Pedro Pony, whose name follows the exact same rule. In addition to them, we also have the Rabbit family. The youngest members, Rose and Rob, and their older siblings, Rebecca and Richard. All of them have the last name Rabbit. Other examples of this fun naming pattern include Susie Sheep and Danny Dog, whose first and last name initials match as well. However, Peppa's little brother is named George Pig, and that's where things start to look a bit different. His initials are G and P, which don't match like the others. If George had always been part of the Pig family, and they chose his name, they might have picked one that also starts with P. Of course, it's possible that George was adopted and already had his name from the orphanage, which would explain why it doesn't follow the pattern. But then again, there are other characters who don't follow the rule either, like Peppa and George's cousins, Chloe and Alexander. Still, we haven't heard anything from the show's creators that clears up this mystery. Mrs. Rabbit is one of the well-known characters in Peppa Pig, mostly recognized for having many different jobs. But here's something you might not know. There's more than one Miss Rabbit. No one really knows how many Miss Rabbits exist, and many fans get confused, thinking Mrs. Rabbit is actually Rebecca's mom. But that's not true. In reality, Mrs. Rabbit is Peppa's friend's aunt because she's the twin sister of Mummy Rabbit. This becomes clear in the episode Mummy Rabbit's Bump, where we see both Mrs. Rabbit and Mummy Rabbit at the hospital. Mrs. Rabbit is working as a nurse, while Mummy Rabbit is there to have her twins. Speaking of twins, that brings up another question. Just how many rabbit sisters are there? We know rabbits usually have a lot of babies, like Mummy and Daddy Rabbit, who have 4 children, Rebecca, Richard, and the twins Rose and Rob. But what about Mrs. Rabbit? How many sisters does she have? Interestingly, when the pig family travels to France, they meet someone who looks just like Mrs. Rabbit and does many of the same jobs. This French version of Mrs. Rabbit, who calls herself Mademoiselle Leal, which means Mrs. Rabbit in French, works as a souvenir seller, a helicopter pilot, and even a professional rescuer. But there's more. It seems Mrs. Rabbit may have sisters in the United States too. When Peppa and her family win a golden ticket and travel to Hollywood for Super Potato's movie, they fly on a plane piloted by Mrs. Rabbit. As soon as they land in New York, they meet another version of Mrs. Rabbit, this time an American one. Like the others, she does many jobs: taxi driver, elevator operator, and ice cream seller. As the family continues their journey to Hollywood, they keep running into more versions of Mrs. Rabbit in different places. So now we have to wonder, is this rabbit family really spread all over the world? Or do all adult rabbits just happen to look and sound the same? One of the most popular Peppa Pig theories is that the original Peppa was replaced by a fake one. This theory began after the creators of Peppa Pig released a family photo of the pig family. In the one image, we see the whole pig family together. As we know, the family includes 4 members: Daddy Pig, Mummy Pig, Peppa, and George. But in this photo, there are 5 family members instead of 4. If you look closely at the window on the ground floor of their house, there's a third pig staring out at the family outside. To this day, the creators of Peppa Pig haven't explained this clearly, and it continues to disturb fans. Is she trapped? How many Peppas are there? Moving on, let's talk about another popular theory. And this one involves none other than Madame Gazelle. In the episode Pumpkin Party, something strange happens. Madame Gazelle doesn't have a reflection in the mirror, which is even pointed out by the narrator. She also mentions that Susie's vampire costume reminds her of the olden days. This led many to believe that Madame Gazelle might actually be a vampire. In another episode, Madame Gazelle's house, we see an old Christmas tree next to her house that makes it lean to one side. When Mr. Bull climbs the tree to check for any living creatures, he finds bats. Madame Gazelle then says her bat friends reminded her of the old days. Also, since the Christmas tree is huge, and Madame Gazelle has had it since it was small, this hints that she could be immortal. These 2 episodes have creeped fans out and quietly suggest that the Peppa Pig universe may be darker than we thought, and that there might just be a hidden backstory. The predators in the show are secretly carnivorous. As we know, Peppa Pig features different animals that are predators in real life. For example, when the children visit the zoo, they meet the 2 workers who care for the animals, Mr. Lion and Mrs. Crocodile. The kids, being innocent, aren't scared at all. But Madame Gazelle grows more and more uneasy as she realizes how close these wild animals are. This shows that the teacher fully understands what these animals are truly capable of. Another moment in the show reveals how some animals still behave like their real-life selves. In one scene, Daddy Pig and Daddy Wolf go on a picnic, but first have to cross a river by boat. As they travel, Daddy Wolf keeps saying how hungry he is and gives Daddy Pig a rather strange look. While it might seem like he's just eyeing the picnic basket, the way it's shown suggests something else, like he's thinking about eating the soft, gentle Daddy Pig. But since it's a children's cartoon, that of course doesn't happen.